Today we're going to talk about scripting, specifically the insane amount of power that scripting within Syncro can offer you. More importantly, Syncro's scripting backend was designed specifically so that anyone can benefit from it. This is something that really sets Syncro apart, both in raw power and ease of access. The goal of this video isn't to provide you with a bunch of pre-made scripts, but rather to give you the tools and the wherewithal to create literally anything you want specifically customized for your MSP and your customers. Now, a quick note before we get started. While Syncro supports Batch and VB script types, this video will primarily focus on PowerShell, as this has largely overtaken the need for either of these older scripting languages. That said, we are going to start with the very basics and work our way forward for those that aren't overly proficient in PowerShell. For those that are, feel free to skip ahead in the video. So let's go ahead and create a new script. We'll go into the Scripts module here, and then click on the New Script button. We'll name it Test Script for now. You can optionally enter a description, which oftentimes is a good idea, especially if you wind up with a large number of scripts. This shows up on the list of your scripts to make them easier to identify. This checkbox here, Mark as Favorite, is actually a pretty cool feature. This is for scripts you find yourself using quite frequently, and when you go to run them against an asset, they have their own favorites drop down so you can get to them more efficiently. I'm going to check this so that I can show you a little later in this video. You also have the option to make this script available to your customers on their customer portal if you utilize the portal for your client base. I'll skip over adding any required fields for now, but we'll get to that later in the video. File type is where you're going to select what scripting language you'd like to use, and we're going to select PowerShell. For Run As, you have two options: System and Logged In User. This is a very important distinction. The system account runs in the background and has full admin access to anything it needs. The logged in user may not. Not only that, but the system account has no physical desktop associated with it. So if you try opening an application, like Notepad for instance, you'll find it running in the Task Manager, but no one can interact with it. Running that same command as the logged in user would open Notepad on their desktop. Finally, the system account runs whether there is a logged in user or not, where if you try and run a script as the logged in user when they are in fact logged out, the script will fail. The last scripting option is the max script runtime. This is also important to pay attention to because all scripting within Syncro works off of a queue system, meaning even if scripts are scheduled to run at a certain time, they will go into a queue if there are other scripts waiting to run ahead of it. This is more of a protection against scripts that don't properly complete and could potentially hang, causing all of your other scripts to become stuck. For the purposes of this demo, we'll leave it here at 10 minutes. Before we get into any actual scripting, I want to draw your attention to the section below the scripting window. This is where all the magic happens, and this is what largely makes Syncro the scripting powerhouse that it is. These are all things we've built in for you, and all of these can be accomplished with what we call one-liners, or simply one line of code. Not only does this make things infinitely easier, such as sending out email notifications without potentially exposing your login credentials, but it allows for scripts themselves to interact with our backend, meaning you can do things like setting the values of custom fields, opening alerts and tickets for you when your script can't auto-remediate detected problems, and even adding time onto tickets for you. We'll go over some of these more in a bit. Just know that anytime you need to use this reference to perform your own scripting magic, you'll always find it at the bottom of the scripting window. So now we're going to write an actual script, and I'm going to copy and paste 2 lines of code into the script body here. This is about as basic of a script as you can get. The first line here simply gets the host name, or the computer name, from the asset and it stores it into a variable. The second line here takes that variable and writes it to the script output. The script output can be massively beneficial for a variety of use cases, one of the largest being troubleshooting lengthy and complex scripts. If it's not clear to you what is failing and where, you can write different portions of the script results to the script output and review it later. So I've got a virtual machine here with Syncro on it that we're going to test with. Everything script related in regard to assets is found in the Scripts tab here. From this screen, you can see the history of scripts that have run against this asset, and you can add scripts to the script queue. Now I could press the Add to Queue button here, and dig through my list of scripts to find the one I want. Or I can select Favorites here, and find it much more quickly. So this screen is where you can set your script schedules. If I leave it as it is, this script will immediately get added to the queue, and if there is nothing else waiting ahead of it, it will run and report back its results almost immediately. But since we're here, let's take a quick look at some of our other options. We're set to run once, and we can either run that now or schedule it for some time in the future. I can also choose to run the script repeatedly, with times ranging between every 15 minutes and once a month. We can still choose to begin that schedule now or at some time in the future. I'm going to schedule it for the future just so you can see what that looks like. Now when I go back to the Scripts tab for this asset, you'll see a new section containing any and all scripts which are currently scheduled for this asset. You can see the frequency, as well as when the next scheduled run will be. I'm going to delete this since it was just for demo purposes. And I'm going to add the same script to the queue, but this time I'll choose to run it now. Within a few seconds, you'll see it appear in the script queue, and a few seconds later it will disappear from the queue and appear live in the asset's script history. Now over on the right-hand side, you'll see these three dots appear next to every script. This gives us the option to quickly rerun the script and view the script output. For our script, the script output contains the host name that our script has recorded. Now if you notice along the middle here, our scripts say success. That means that they made it all the way through the code and exited properly where there were no further instructions found, regardless of whether or not the script did what you wanted it to do. There are times you might want to show a different result to show that something improper happened. This is called failing a script, and while there are several ways to do this through code, I'll show you the quickest way for demo purposes. So we'll go back into our script, and we'll add this code here, which basically says if the host name is virtual-2, we'll pass a success code back to Syncro. And if it is anything else, we'll pass a failure code back to Syncro. We know that the host name of this machine is actually virtual-1, so this will fail the script. Exit 1 tells my script, regardless of where this line is found, to immediately exit processing any commands and return a failure code. Let's go ahead and run this and see what this looks like. So now we are showing a different result. We can see the script did not complete because it encountered an error. This is also useful at times for determining how often certain scripts may not actually be doing what you want them to. So that's basic scripting in a nutshell. Now let's take a look at some of the fun stuff. First, we're going to touch on the basics of script variables. One of the reasons Syncro's scripting capabilities are some of the best in the industry is in large part due to its script variable capability. Sometimes when you run a script, you may want to inject different values dynamically depending on what you are trying to accomplish. For instance, maybe I want to create a script that runs an executable file on any given customer's machine. I can certainly do that without script variables, but then what if I have 50 different executables I may want to run when taking into account all of my different customers? That's not realistic to write scripts for every one of those scenarios, and thanks to script variables, you don't have to. So let's create a new script. I'll call it script variables, and I'll mark it as a favorite. You'll notice that there is currently no button for script variables, and that is because script variables only work with PowerShell scripts. After setting the file type to PowerShell, this button will appear. The first setting here, variable name, is the variable name your script will use to reference this value. I'll name it file path. For variable type, there are two kinds, runtime scripts and platform scripts. I'll show you runtime scripts first. This style of script variable means you don't have the variable information stored anywhere within Syncro, and that you will decide on the variable's value at the time you add the script to your script queue. You should also note that you can add as many script variables to your scripts as you would like simply by pressing the Add Script Variable button again. So I'll add this line here, which is Start Process, which essentially means run something, and now I'll say $file path, which is how we are going to reference our variable above. If you forget how to format the variable name for your script, we've conveniently shown you here. Lastly, Because I want to show you what this script is actually doing, I have to change the run as to logged in user. This will allow the applications we open to be visible on this machine's desktop. So we'll go ahead and add our script to the script queue, same as before, but now you'll see we have another required field that appears. Syncro is asking what the file path should be for our script variable. I'm going to put in the executable path of Notepad just for a quick example. So let's run this and see what happens. And now you can see that Notepad has opened. If I want to change what opens, I can repeat the process and use something else for my file path. This time I'll use the file path from Windows Calculator. And now the Calculator app has opened. So we've used the same script to generate two different outcomes using runtime script variables. If you recall, I mentioned there were actually two different kinds of script variables. There are runtime and platform. Let's take a look at the platform variables. You'll notice that these look almost the same as runtime, with the exception of the value drop-down box here. This is where Syncro's scripting power really begins to shine. There are loads of values in here, and that's because Syncro allows you to take the values not just from asset fields, but from customer fields as well. You can even pull information from your contact within your customer that is associated with this specific asset. Best of all, you can pull custom fields from any of these three resources, giving platform variables nearly limitless potential. For now, though, let's not do anything too crazy. Let's continue to work from that same idea of launching applications. I've added a custom field here on my asset record. I'm going to go ahead and put in the same file path we used prior for Notepad. And I'll go ahead and save my changes. Now back in our script, I can find that custom value as an asset field by searching for it. There it is. So let's go ahead and save this and run it. Now when we go to add the script to the script queue, we don't have any values to enter. This is because Syncro is pulling this data from this assets record directly. We'll go ahead and run it. And now you can see Notepad opened again. Now one of the coolest things about our platform script variables is that they are read during runtime, not when the script is created, meaning every time your script runs, it goes out and finds the value. This is important to remember when scheduling scripts. If I ran this script every 15 minutes, it would continuously launch Notepad. However, if I went into the asset record and changed the file path to, say, Windows Calculator, the next time this script ran, it would launch that instead. This is immensely useful for making changes to customers or asset records without worrying about having to spend time making changes to a bunch of scripts or having to contend with hundreds or even thousands of scripts customized specifically to each customer and their needs. So now we'll look at a real-world example MSPs have to deal with throughout the course of everyday business, and that's customers that pay late or stop paying altogether. It's always a pain in the ass because you have to carefully disable all of their scripting without deleting them all in case they do finally pay their bills in full. Wouldn't it be nice if there was a much easier way to handle this? Well, with Syncro, there is. I've added a custom drop-down field to customers called Customer Status. Now you can have as many statuses as you like, but for this example we've used two, current and late. Our goal here is to add a single setting that can disable all scripting for a given customer while still keeping it in place. Let's see how that works in a real script. So here we are back in our original script. We're going to modify this to accept a script variable. We'll call it Customer Status. Because this field is attached to a customer record, we'll use a platform type here. And we'll search for and select our customer status variable. Now I've wrapped our script code in this if statement. If the customer status is current, then proceed with the script. If not, fail the script and denote the reason why in the script output. So let's go ahead and run this script. And as you can see, it ran normally as expected. Without modifying the script, let's go mark this customer status as late. Now I'll update the customer and then run the script again. Now you'll see that the script shows up as failed, and when we check the script output, we'll find the reason. This script failed to process because this customer is late on their payments. If you wrap all of your scripts this way, You can easily enable and disable a script for any given customer with the click of a button, without having to worry about doing anything to their existing policies or to scripts already in the queue. Let's take a look at one more script that can really make deploying anything with activation codes literally a one-click process using script variables. We are going to use the popular antivirus WebRoot for this example. It's easy to deploy WebRoot via scripting, but it's a pain to deal with custom installers or swapping key codes post-installation. So what we've done here is add a custom field to our customer record called WebRoot keycode. This is unique to each customer, so from this point forward, when we deploy WebRoot via scripting, it will properly license the install and associate it with the proper customer in WebRoot's cloud portal. Before we get started with this script, I would like to explain another helpful feature of Syncro, and that is the ability to associate files with scripts without having to link to your own externally hosted location. So let's go ahead and add our WebRoot installer, and you do that with the Add New File button on the Scripts page. You get a ton of options to choose from, but for now, we'll just upload our WebRoot executable and then we'll head over to a new script. Okay, so first thing we want to do here is grab our WebRoot installer and link it to this script. Next, we'll tell the script where on the client's machine we'd like the file to reside. We'll use this for now. We'll choose PowerShell as the type, and we'll leave the Run As set to System. Before we get to the script though, we want to add our WebRoot keycode script variable that we added to our customer record earlier. So we'll name our variable keycode, set its variable type to platform, and assign our value. So in our first line of code, we reference the file path where we'll find our installer, and we use the customer's keycode as a command line argument. Lastly, we'll write a message to the script output letting us know that the installation has completed. So now if we check our script history, we can see that the script is completed and our output lets us know that the process completed successfully. The best part is, once you have your customer's keycodes assigned to each customer record, you can use one script to deploy the installer across your entire customer base, always ensuring that the proper code is assigned to each installation. This use case works across any application that accepts an activation code through the command line. So we've barely scratched the surface of what we can do with scripting in Syncro, but we truly hope your wheels are turning after seeing firsthand the simplistic nature of what our limitless scripting sandbox can do for you and your customers. With that said, let's get into some more advanced concepts using some of Syncro's built-in scripting magic. In fact, let's combine two of these together right off the bat. The first thing you'll need to know is that other than requiring a PowerShell script, the only other thing you'll need to make any of these commands work is to include this line here at the top of your script. Other than that, and filling in the name of your Syncro instance where applicable, these are generally plug and play. So what we've done here is told our script to grab a screenshot of this asset's desktop. Now remember, because the user's desktop is involved, we'll have to run this script as the logged in user, though we'll remind you if you forget. The script will save the screenshot to the asset, and the very next line will upload the image to the asset record. This second line here can upload just about any file you like, but for this example we'll stick to the screenshot. So let's see what we got. When we scroll down to the attachment, we'll find our attached file. You can even open pictures up just by clicking on them. Ooh, nice wallpaper. We don't stop at scripts just reading your custom variables, we also allow scripts to write to them too. A great example of this would be qualifying your assets for what type of backups may be applicable to them. For instance, maybe I'm willing to back up any machine in my cloud storage provider if they're using 50 gigabytes of data or less in their user profile folder, or perhaps you just onboarded a new cloud storage provider and you want to start advertising it to qualifying customers. I'm going to show you a great way to accomplish this by using custom fields and scripts. For this script, you really only need to pay attention to two lines. This one here at the top, which is required to utilize any of Syncro's special PowerShell commands, and this one at the bottom, which sets our custom field user profile size with the value that our script generates. The code contained between the hash marks is the code that generates that value. Because I may decide to reevaluate which customers may qualify for cloud storage or not in the future, it doesn't make sense to run this once, because if I were to come back a month from now, these values will most likely have changed. So what we are going to do is set the script to run in a schedule. So we're going to select our script, and now we'll set it to run repeatedly. I am not overly concerned with having this data overwritten every 15 minutes, so let's set the script to run every day, and set that to happen at midnight. Now that the script is run, let's check the output to ensure it completed properly. Since this is a virtual machine, we aren't using very much in terms of storage. It looks like 1 GB. Let's take a look at our asset record and see if it matches. In here you can see this asset's user profile size is 1 GB. There are other ways you could do this too, such as setting this custom field to qualified if it's less than 50 GB, or even using drop-down fields instead. The important part is that I can now use this custom field data to sort by machine that qualifies for cloud storage based around my own custom parameters. And best of all, this value will now be updated daily, so I never have to worry about working off of outdated information. There are literally thousands of use cases for how you can use the power of Syncro scripting module to make more money and run your MSP more efficiently. So what are you waiting for? Use what you've learned here today to go off and create your own scripting magic. Remember, if you can think it, we can do it.